Hi, everyone. So welcome to this kind of presentation today. We're going to talk about, some tips and some strategies of how to succeed in college. So with that being said, I kind of want to talk about my own experiences, also kind of to get to know me a little better and why I feel I have some things to share about the college experience. So for those that don't know me, I'm just going to move over here. I've been teaching college courses since 2015 at both the community college level, undergraduate level, as well as graduate level. In addition to that, I've worked in the college setting, specifically with college counseling centers, providing mental health and career services. And from my own personal experience as a student, I currently have 4 college degrees, an associate's, 2 bachelor's and master's, and currently working on my 5th, which would be a PhD. So from that, I've been in college for some time as a student as well as a professional. And so I think, I kind of want to share some tips and strategies that I've seen throughout the years that I've experienced myself, but also I've heard other people's stories. So with that, let's kind of begin. So what I've noticed too, and it's going to be kind of a big theme throughout this presentation, is college can be really frustrating and is not a utopia that we sometimes may believe it is through the marketing and the recruitment elements of this. College, no doubt, can be special. It can also be really boring and stupid. So there's going to be times you're going to be really frustrated. And the thing that I've also learned too, and I really want to stress this enough, is unfortunately within the United States, there is this message that in order to be successful, one must go to college, and I extremely disagree with that. And again, this is coming from someone who has almost 5 college degrees, has worked in college my whole adult life. I teach college courses. I really disagree with the idea that it's for everyone. It's not for everyone, nor should it be. And what I mean by that is there are many different ways, different careers, different ways of being as a person. In college, it does not provide all those opportunities. And there's various levels of that. Community colleges, which is where I started out as a student as well as an employee, are fantastic services and resources in providing more technical education. And those technical careers are so needed, and especially in rural areas of Maine. They're needed, and what's helpful is we are in a state that recognizes this. And so I think from a from a high school standpoint, I would view it as once you graduate, yeah, you're going to need to learn something and to develop some sort of skills. College is one avenue for that. There are numerous other avenues to learn a skill, to learn knowledge, to grow and develop. It doesn't always happen at college, but college is one elements for this. Okay. So that's my own view of this. So with that, college has existed in an institution for a long time, formally since the 1600s in the Western world. But before that too, anytime we've had an institution or kind of an organization that dedicated to teaching people to grow and develop has been part of human history for many, many, many thousands of years. So with that, there we see different kind of traditions of what college should be about. And there's major debates about this as well. One school of thought is college is for career development. So I kind of alluded to that. You graduate high school, or you may have gone a different route, but one goes to college to get a degree to work in a certain field or to be employable by some sort of industry. So you hear this quite a bit of when we ask students why they want to go to college. It could be, well, I want to be in this profession or I want to make a lot of money. And so the other kind of perspective too, with college, and again, it's going to vary depending on the location of the college and the type of college, whether private, public, 4-year, graduate, etc., and even the programs within those colleges. But college also can be seen as a place for personal growth and development. Many of your humanities and social science courses focus on developing you as a person, whether ethically, morally, spiritually, intelligently. You're being exposed to all these views and having a better understanding of how you and the world work. And so then finally, there's a kind of a hybridization, and this is kind of where I lead into, where college does have the opportunity for professional development, especially career related components, and no doubt personal development. So for me, um, like I said, college is not for everyone, but college does have the potential to really improve and change one's life. For me, probably the best decision I ever made was to go to college. I one undergrad, my undergraduate degree, one of them was in psychology, and I really took that opportunity to understand who I was and grow as a person. Didn't really know who I was, had a lot of mental health struggles along the way too, but if it wasn't for college, I probably would not be the person who I am today. So again, that's kind of my story, and I'm also understanding that there's different paths for different people. So with that, it's helpful to understand your why. Why are you selecting college? And does it match what you want? So college can have those perspectives for career or personal development, but it's really to understand, why do you want to do this? Unfortunately, many times, especially coming straight out of high school, there's this impetus that, okay, I have to go to college. But the question is, why? Do you really want to? What is your own kind of motivation for this? Why do you want this? Why I focus on this is because college is not going to be easy. What I mean by that, there's going to be barriers, frustration, stress, and it's going to be multiple years possibly of coursework, and it's very hard to sometimes get the reward from it, especially if you go with a typical 4-year undergraduate degree. It can be really hard kind of slugging through it because we don't really get that reward as we do compared to other kind of experiences we have. It takes time to see the fruits of our labor. So having those motivations, understanding our why, can no doubt help our career decision making of what majors, of what colleges we want to go to, as well as our motivations. And related to that too is there are many different ways to get through college. And one of the thing that's coming up quite a bit is the financial debt can be a major barrier. And that is something I want to take a moment to kind of talk about. There are various different ways and paths to grow as a person. So college can be one way. And even within college, there can be different avenues to go to. When I was graduating high school, the big emphasis, for whatever reason, seemed to go to public schools, or excuse me, to private schools, right? The private schools were seen as a better opportunity career wise. I disagreed with that at the time and still do now, where we see, people go to private schools, can be in thousands of dollars in debt. There are other avenues depending on the state one lives or one wants to go to. We can have state schools, and state schools tend to be cheaper than private institutions, especially if you live in that state. You'll pay your tuition will be lower compared to out of state. If you go to another state school but live in another state, we call that an out of state residence. So there's different prices with that. In addition to what I experienced is also starting off at a community college. Now, again, depending on where you are, what your high school is, me saying I started at a community college can be very taboo and can be seen as being a failure, which I think is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Community colleges tend to be cheaper than universities. In addition to that, the programs tend to be more applied. Your faculty tend to be working in the field that you are interested in. And you also interact with people from numerous different experiences. So right out of high school, I went to a community college, and it was the first time in my life I was in classes with people who were much older than me, who already had all this experience that I've had, excuse me, that in their lives. And it was an opportunity to interact with them and learn from them. And I really believe starting off at a community college for me really helped me understand the value of education. And so again, it's really knowing, what is your why, what are your motivations, and understand that there's many different paths to get there. So with that, it can be helpful to really talk to other people, learn their experiences, really understand kind of the business and profession of higher education to in that way to pick a path that works best for you. So with this too, I'm mainly talking about individuals going from high school to college in this slides. And again, from a college professor as well as a mental health counselor who work in college centers, the transitioning from from senior year high school to freshman year in college can be really difficult. And a lot of times, what we would see too, especially in the fall semester around October at the college counseling centers, I would see a massive amount of freshmen who are kind of really struggling with that transition. In addition to when I teach undergraduate courses, I see this as a professor, the difficulty of that transitioning from high school to college. So, what is that transition difficulty? Well, when we look at high school, there's a lot of structure. And for most students, although for about 18 years of their life, everything was planned out for them and they didn't have much say into it, right? Their typical day was they would go to school and already their classes, for the most part, would be planned for them. um, they would show up, the day would be very structured. Maybe at the end of the day, they would play sports, which is a very structured system, and then they would go home. For the most part, everything was organized or structured for them. And they didn't have as much say or have the opportunity to really create their own structure. Now, college is much different than that. We go from a very highly structured educational system to a very free educational system. There's not a lot of structure, right? You hear it all the time. Students like, whoa, I only have to show up to class like 4 times a week. Like, yep, right. Compared to showing up every day, 5 days a week. And the classes are typically an hour and a half, depending on the course. And you also have the freedom for the most part to select those courses. In college, there's a lot of downtime. Now we can see that downtime is, woo, this is awesome, period. But the downtime exists really to study and do the coursework. There's a lot of work that is expected from college, and there's a lot of freedom. And with that freedom, there's not really a lot of people who sometimes check in with you. That's can be a barrier, I think, in college, is we don't have a lot of structure sometimes with this. So as you'll see too from your experience, there'll be individuals, maybe your roommate, maybe a friend, who really struggle with all that freedom. It's easy to play video games all day or to go out and spend a lot of money on fast food or experiences and then put the college experience to the wayside. So again, that goes back to our why. Why are we doing this? Is it to get an education? Is it to get personal and professional development? Or is it maybe to make friends and social interests? That's a part of college for sure. So the biggest thing though is there's going to be a lot of free time and there's less structure. So to really kind of help with that transition, it's very important to build your own structure. It's going to sound so simple, but these tools and strategies can greatly benefit. First is waking up on time the same day or going to bed around the same time. You want a sleep schedule with this. At the same time, too, it's important to have a bathing or hygiene schedule. I can't stress enough how many times I've heard either roommates complain about their other roommates' hygienes, or we've had students refer to us at a college counseling center because professors or staff are really concerned about someone's hygiene. So there's structure that we need to help with this too. So really, it's about organization, maybe having a planner, maybe setting up some sort of calendar, maybe having some unique time and routine to work on schoolwork, work on kind of your own professional growth or development, and especially have routine for leisure activities. So we want to build that structure. It's so important. So with that too, with building our own structure, you're going to get what you put into it. Like I said, college is not a perfect system. There's going to be frustrations, annoyances, and barriers. Things don't always work the way we want them to. There's going to be times maybe, you may have for the next 4 years all your courses scheduled and planned out. The next thing you know, one of the very important classes you need is already filled. By the time you can register for it, Maybe the only professor who teaches it are going on sabbatical, so they're going to be gone for a year. Or, maybe something changes where some personal situations come up, or the program changes their course schedule, and that means you're going to have to find a way to get through those annoyances and barriers. So with that, yes, it can be annoying. Frustrating is not always the most helpful experience, but as I mentioned earlier with my own kind of story, it's a great place that can promote our own personal and professional development. It's not the only place, but it is a place that can do that. So to make that happen, it sometimes requires to put energy in our own part. Again, this goes back. This is what's different, I think, from high school to college. High school, a lot of people are putting the energy to help you. And it's easy to just kind of sit back and let that experience happen. In college, for the most part, you're going to have to be your own best advocate, and you're going to have to put the energy into that. There are so many resources and opportunities at colleges, but again, you're going to be the one that has to seek those out and put energy into making those happen. So, things I've learned: succeeding in college is not always about being the smartest. That's the thing I really want to stress. It's not intelligence wise that makes someone successful in college. I've seen so many smart, valedictorian, straight A students in high school who really struggle in college because, again, it's a different environment. You can't always use your intelligence to get through it. What's really about college is perseverance. Again, getting through those barriers, building one structures, utilizing resources that we need. And so people who've had an easier time with high school, I think, may struggle with college because you can't always rely on intelligence and smartness to get through these problems. It's going to take more perseverance, building your own structure, reaching out to people, and kind of that resiliency piece. In addition to that, too, your professors are not gods, they're human. Okay. Unfortunately, we put many professors on these pedestal of these intelligent, enlightened individuals, and really, they're not always that way. They're human. Some are going to be fantastic and have massive positive impacts on your lives. Others need improvement. They may have the intent and the hope to be helpful instructors, but something they're just not meeting that mark, but they have that potential. And no doubt there's going to be a few that should not even be working in higher education. So that's the thing. You're going to have great professors, you're going to have mediocre professors, and you're going to have the nightmare professors. Guarantee it. So, again, how do we have that perseverance, that resilience to get through all those elements? I want to reiterate again, it's going to sound like a broken record, but it's very important to build your own structure to get through these experiences. Um, so with that too, there's going to be many ups and downs with your college experience. And so it can be helpful to have some sort of support system to help with this. First avenue that I recommend even before going to college, maybe that summer before summer between graduating high school and entering college, this could be a good opportunity to do what we call in the career services informational interviewing. Informational interviewing is just a fancy way of saying you're going to reach out to people and talk to people about their own experiences. It could be related to a particular field that you're interested in, or we could start off by just learning about people's college experiences. So talk to other people about their experiences. What advice would they have? What was helpful? What was not helpful? In addition to that, too, we can build support that way, build a network. So I can, from my own experience, hearing from students, and then also at counseling centers, the importance of having peers, family and staff, faculty, other support systems to get through this experience. It's very hard to do this on your own, and it can be helpful to have peers who assist with assignments, or can be just a vent area when you have the nightmare professors, so someone to complain about, to vent all that frustration. Having, family, staff, faculty, anyone in your corner to help you kind of be a place where you can hear your frustrations, but also be a place where they can kind of help motivate you and give you support when you need. In addition to many colleges, there's a lot of resources that you can access. But here's the thing, you have to access them. So There's going to be advisors who can help, with even navigating with nightmare professors, maybe, or also developing your course schedule, figuring out a plan to graduation. There can be career development, which could help with internships, practicum sites, as well as resume development and networking. There can be tutoring. Typically, this is at your library, and tutoring can be really helpful. For the most part, there's going to be a lot of papers you have to write, and this may be new for you. So I really recommend accessing tutoring. And again, being proactive with all these resources, it can be easier to reach out to them in the early stages rather than the emergency stages, but they are available in emergencies. It segues great to the kind of mental health services. Most colleges have counseling services and wellness services on campus. So these can be great opportunities when we need support. Professional support is available. Then again, too, from my own experience as a college counselor, I do recommend reaching out when you start to have the thought of needing counseling, because again, it can be easier to deal with things proactively rather than reactively. And as well with that too, clubs and organizations can be helpful. So I just want to take a quick note back to mental health services. Again, I would hear this all the time. Students would be worried to come to mental health counseling because they felt that their problem wasn't significant enough. In other words, they didn't want their problem to, they didn't want to take a slot from someone who really needed that. And again, the services are there for everyone, and everyone has a subjective experience of their problems. I would always tell students, hey, you are just as important. And typically that frame of thinking had to possibly do with their problem. Maybe it was low self-esteem. Maybe they didn't feel good enough. Maybe they're such a classic helper that they put others before them. So really, don't feel like you're not good enough or you're not important enough to access these services. They're here for you. Everyone, they're here for everyone at the college. So again, reach out if you feel you want more additional support. Yeah, so that's kind of my rant. In closing, this is just a snapshot. I would say the biggest thing to take away from this is build your own structure, access resources, whether it be resources on campus, whether it be building your own kind of support system with peers, friends, family. And again, use that informational interviewing opportunities to just ask people their own experiences. What was helpful? What was not for helpful? And then finally, going back to the very beginning, really reflect on what do I want out of college? Why am I doing this? What are my motivations? And is college the best path to accomplish what I want? So those are just some things to think about. Thank you for listening. I'm sure I'm going to add some more videos about this topic going forward. So thank you and have a good day.